Hey everyone, it's me, Chris again. This is just a quick overview of what I did to lighten up the Guillows Aeronca Champion kit number 301 LC. I modified it to be used for both either electric or nitro for the little Pee Wee motors that Cox used to make. They're still available around. They're quite popular and really easy to install in these models. In fact, the build plan suggested. So here we go. I used common typical techniques used and seen around by other local hobbyists to lighten up the airframe. This is carbon fiber firewall. I had a scrap 2mm sheet of some good carbon fiber for my CNC desktop router and decided to just do that. It's just I used a scanned copy of the firewall template and Elmer's glue stick, slapped it on there and carved it out with a Dremel tool. It's very fast and easy, very nice. I have took some of the scrap or the leftover and unused landing gear wire and used it as the reinforcement for the elevator at the joint separation to modify it for RC. I took a good look at where the electronics need to go, what I had at hand to use for electronics for this particular project, and decided to study this for a little bit and see what direction I needed to go to both lighten up the part of this airframe, install the electronics, check the weight and the structural integrity of this sub part of the model, and continue from there so we can get everything else plugged in and ready to go. So I started with looking at the plan, seeing how much material realistically I could remove from the build. I saw some good opportunities to put some lightning holes in the ribs and remove some of the mass out of the formers for the fuselage as well. Landing gears totally replaced. I used foam park flyer. It's from Flight Test. It's the almost ready to fly kit they provide on their website. It's the Adventure. It looks like a Cessna 172 converted into a bush plane or something like that. It's red and black. It's really cheap at less than $100. You can gut that foamy and get a lot of very useful parts for the Guillows kits. All the 300 series kits, 24 inches. So is, the Flight Test is 25 inches. As a matter of fact, that's what I did to this particular Guillows model. I added an inch and replaced the spar leading edge with my own stock from a local supplier. Very harder balsa wood. Working on it heavy with sanding blocks and creating the rounded edge on the leading edge is much easier when I have harder wood. I can take my time and just lightly sand it as I go. So the stock ones I found were just a little too light and would wear away quicker than you'd usually expect, especially if the wood is very dry. Parts E2 and E1 were modified. I lightened up E2 with lightning holes. E1 needed to be extended, so I bought a 3/32 sheets of some nice grit from my same local supplier. Split up E1 into two pieces to create the aileron. This is just a quick modification versus the original plan and my editing. I removed every other rib as well as I could, keeping in F2 for the wing strut support, and that's about it, as much as I can tell you with the wings. I'll give you a video of the progress later. So I put lightning holes in and made copies of this for all the tips. So the trailing edge needed to be modified, and it's certainly for the aileron modifications, separation between the two. This is just other stuff here. So that's where we go on that. And bringing it up to the wing, here are the holes. Tip and trick for my fellow modelers out there. Making round lightning holes is pretty easy to do. We don't want to really use our naked Captain Caveman eyes to make these crude holes, even with a pin vise. Balsa is inherently soft, and after we all drill the holes, we see the hairy little fibers sticking out. So I just, remembered, oh, I used to do wood burning. One of my grandfathers was a wood shop teacher in junior high, so I remembered that. And instead of a wood burning kit, I do have a soldering iron and a specialized tip, and very skinny round barrel tip, and was able to remove all those ugly fibers that stick out after trying to impossibly finish off drilled hole in balsa. So that's a tip and trick. Also, another way, if it does get too flimsy to remove too much material, remember you can reinforce this with by adding a coat, one thin coat of finishing resin all over each individual part, diluted down with just a few drops of acetate, and soak into the wood. Let it set 24 hours. It'll be much stiffer apart. Use as little as possible. One thin coat will go a very long way as long as you apply it evenly. Do not add too much acetate. It will make the parts rubbery, especially when they're lightened up and so much material is removed as such. So anyways, airframe for the fuselage built up and skins. I started to get some ideas of how to align the cowl. I got a temporary piece of packing tape just to mock up the windshields. I have the servos installed with the two supports are just cut off the spare carbon fiber sheet that I had. I just made two brackets to hold the rudder and aileron, the rudder and elevator in place, and eyeballs the position where the push rods would go through, and use the Dremel and put holes through the formers before I skinned it, of course. The tail wheel is fixed, the dragger tail wheel. I don't mind it. I'm most likely going to hand launch this thing a lot. I do see one big mistake a lot of people do, and when I was younger, when you first get into this, you should hand launch these little guys first. I see a lot of heroes out there, just like myself. I'm guilty of the same thing, trying to do the ROG, rise off grounds, but something this small, bumping in around, bouncing, it's just unrealistic and out of scale, and too much hopping like that when something's trying to take off. No wonder why you see half the time they just crash at 100 feet after it starts taking off from the standing still position. Anyways, I digress. Anyway, stay tuned for more. I'll promise to have more on the wings. Have this thing actually flying, hopefully flying. This isn't a model as light as I like to see. Tim McKay would laugh at this. This is a fat lady compared to what he does. I do like his UMX style, the brick 5-in-1, 3-in-1, 4-in-1 featured flight control boards from the Spectrum line, the Hobby and Park Zone line. They're very nice. The DSM technology, DSMX, DSMX2, all that's pretty popular, so that's what I opt to pick up. It's good for cars, it's pretty universal. Anyways, stay tuned for more. Bye.